I give Jesse a simple task today. Get a bush.
In the bush.
And, oh no, it's a tree.
Yeah. No, he called me as soon as you gave it to
Sarah
him.
wants.
He's in Gulf.
You know,
Yeah, but you knew he was in
Yeah,
Gulf.
but I did.
Well, see, he just happy as he can be there.
So he goes through the whole time. Oh, so I try to include him every now and then.
I know, make it feel good.
I did.
Anyway, I went over
I
there. It's
usually
about
give
an
it to
80
you.
straight. I mean, it's coming out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
But it's
My little
gonna hit,
sister was wondering about that.
it's gonna hit the power lines. That's the reason we sent it over to them.
Square away here. Here, see. You're a pin drop. Is it close enough? Oh, it's
Before or
right
after?
6 o'clock. I'll call the March 12th town council meeting together. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight here. We got a pretty busy agenda coming up tonight, so I will try to speed it along as much as possible. On the calendar, the only thing we have is the Tuesday, March 26th is a town council meeting, a regular town council meeting coming up then. And then on announcements there, this is not anything you like to bring to our attention, but we lost one of our members, Bob Herman, on the Board of Adjustment, and he was also on the Civil Police Academy. And he was once on the planning board at one time, but he passed away February 29th. That's right. February 29th. So everyone please keep Mr. Herman's family in your thoughts there. We totally appreciate that. We'll move on. We know public comment, correct?
Let's see, is there anyone that's here that has filled out the forms and that?
Public comment?
You
Okay.
do have to
Other than
develop-
if you're speaking during the public hearing, you know, if you're speaking during the public hearing, that's totally different.
That's right, we can do.
Okay. And made my day. And additions or deletions to the agenda.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the consent agenda item 2E, which is the Mountain Heritage Market special event permit, and replace it with the special permit that Rob handed out right before the meeting. Is to amend the number of participants that was at 1 million, that has now been altered to 3,000 to 5,000.
Okay, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Right. Second from somebody?
Second.
Second from John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show like sign. All right, we move on to the, that was
Then
part
I'd
of,
like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Before we do that, I have one correction to the
that's
minutes
true, I forgot. I'm
of
sorry.
our special, the council retreat on, at the tail end of section 4, the report on stormwater program, what is required, I'm quoted as expressing concern about exempting lower income people from smaller homes.
Mhm.
And it really should read, I expressed an interest in exempting lower income people in smaller homes.
Okay. You're,
I'm writing it down.
your man, your agenda,
So we can,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda and as amended.
as amended. Second by John.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show like sign. Okay. Move on. We got really, really important proclamation here. tonight. He was a dear friend when I grew up in Hazelwood. So I've got a proclamation here for Mr. Bobby McKay Day on March the 12th. And so I will read this. Whereas Bobby McKay, a distinguished business leader native to Hazelwood, demonstrated entrepreneurial prowess from youthful pursuits and through the ownership of McKay's Meat Market and Freezer Locket, multiple construction companies, and McKay Rentals and Investments. Whereas Bobby McKay enduring commitment spanned over 7 decades, during which he not only provided employment opportunities, but also facilitated housing solutions for residents of Waynesville. Whereas Bobby McKay's willingness to take risks and being a man ahead of his time extended to the financial support of numerous enterprises within the communities of Haywood County. Whereas Bobby McKay exhibited civic dedication by undertaking grading and street improvement projects for the former town of Hazelwood, often minimal or no cost to the town. Whereas Bobby McKay visionary initiatives, including development of neighborhoods and construction of central thoroughfares such as Russ Avenue. We could use him right now. Significantly contributing to the growth and evolution of Waynesville into its present day form. Whereas Bobby McKay has exemplified unwavering support for local law enforcement agencies and the Waynesville Fire Department, embodying a steadfast ally into ensuring community safety and well-being. Therefore, it be proclaimed on this day that Bobby McKay legacy of progressive leadership, generosity, and civil stewardship shall forever be cherished and commemorated within the annals of Waynesville's history. In witness thereof, I hereunto set my hand, cause the seal of the town of Waynesville to be affixed this the 12th day in March in the year of our Lord 2024 as Bobby McKay Day. God, we need to stand up on that. And doing so, I would like, I've got the signed proclamation, if you would give that to his son Alex. And
Thank y'all.
y'all got it, all right. No problem. He was a good man. Definitely needed to be recognized. So we'll move on to, we got a couple of public hearings coming up. And so, first public hearing is to consider Biltmore Baptist Church Conditional District Map Amendment Rezoning Application, Sections 2.7 and 15.15 of the Land Development Standard LSDs. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Got a motion by Julia,
Second.
second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, show like sign. Over. You're on the spot.
Olga Grumman, Land Use Administrator. This is a public hearing for Biltmore Baptist Church Conditional District. I will read the PIN of the property for the record. 8626001383. The 7.9 acre parcel is the proposed location of a Biltmore Baptist Church campus. The total project area is 7.38 acres and includes 25,000 square foot building, a worship center, classrooms, flex rooms, nursing rooms, student areas, offices, coffee, and storage units. The outdoor amenity includes the playground to the north. The applicant is requesting a conditional district rezoning in order to develop the property as a church. If approved, this request would amend the zoning map and create a Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Center conditional district. It would relax certain LDS zoning requirements specifically for that property, and they will become conditioned for this site plan approval. The project is seeking flexibility in building size, exterior design, guidelines, parking lot location, and sidewalk requirements. You do have it as a part of your agenda, but you also have it separately so you can access it quicker. This is the planning board report with 5 recommended conditions. And we will go through each one of them during the zoning review, and some of them actually have been addressed by developer between the planning board and this hearing. As you probably know, but for the broader audience, this is a legislative procedure where the planning board is a recommending body, where they can recommend certain conditions that are reasonable to the site plan, but the town council is the final approval body. It can attach as conditions, it can disregard or create a new set of conditions for that site plan. Biltmore Baptist Church is the property owner. It granted authorization to several project team members to represent this case today, and I do have them in the back row. I know they would be excited to present after me as well and answer more specific questions. The technical review committee consisting of town's zoning, planning, fire, public services, and building inspections first met with the applicants in October 2023, and then again with updates in January 2024. The planning board held a public hearing on February 26th, and staff provided notices of today's public hearing in the Mountaineer newspaper for 2 weeks, posting the property and via first class mail to adjacent property owners within 500 feet. And per LDS requirements, the applicants held neighborhood meeting on February 6th. 2 staff members, including me, attended the meeting, and you do have some information in your agenda packet. 2 citizens showed up, and they were encouraging and very excited about the project. Biltmore Baptist Church campus is proposed on this unaddressed 7.9-acre parcel. Religious institution, as defined in our zoning ordinances, is permitted outright in this zoning district, Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Center District. The applicant has provided an extensive environmental survey, which is actually one of the best. We do have some abstracts in your agenda. Master plan, and they have provided building elevations. And a side note, you do have building elevations in the agenda, but the newest elevations are on your tables separately. They have been just submitted today. Jump into zoning analysis, zoning compliance, the district provisions and dimensional requirements. The Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Center has the following purpose in land development standards, and I will read that verbatim. It is a small neighborhood center that functions as a gathering place for those residing in the rural and neighborhood districts found in East Waynesville. A highly mixed-use district, this area will develop into a small-scale pedestrian-friendly setting with design criteria supporting such development. The creation of an inviting streetscape and pedestrian connections are important, both within the center and to adjoining neighborhoods. Efforts to calm and manage the traffic at the center will be important in this busy area and will be a sharing of parking and the development of park and walk amenities. As this is an entrance to Waynesville, architectural and site design should be of the highest quality. Now, for this zoning district, we don't have minimum pervious surface, minimum lot size, or maximum density requirements. We do have a setback requirements with a minimum of 10 feet front and street side, and 5 feet rear setback, and setback from adjacent lot is 0. The proposed plan greatly exceeds the requirements. They are 112 feet from the front property line and 75 feet from the sides at the closest point to the property lines, and they are 150 feet to the property line from the north side. So LDS section 2.2 and 4.2 requires that a building over 8,000 square feet in Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Center to go through either conditional district or special use permit. The building as proposed is 25,000 square feet, and so it's not allowed, it's permitted, it just the size of the building triggers the process. And in addition, because the applicant is asking for some leniencies or conditions, that's why the process is conditional district. Lot standards. The building will front the intersection of Asheville Road and Redcliffe Cove Road. It will actually front the corner of the roundabout. It is compliant as it fronts the major thoroughfare, and both streets are Asheville Road and Redcliffe Cove Road are NCDOT streets. The allowed height of the building is 3 stories in this district. The proposed building is about just over 27 feet. And by our definitions, the story is at least 14 feet, so they're in compliance, even though it's a one-story building. And we classify this building as a commercial. The commercial building provides convenient automobile access from the front and thoroughfare. It usually has 4 yards, front yard, 2 side yards, and a rear yard, as the approach shows. And it can accommodate a limited amount of parking in the front yard with the remainder to the side and rear of the building. As for the building materials, that's where the project is asking some leniencies, but we do have updated materials. So metal panels and siding are allowed in this district, and they can be used as a facade, specifically in neighborhood center or business districts. And these metal panels shall be architectural grade without high gloss, so they're compliant. The other materials that are adherent to the ordinance include hardy board siding, metal siding, metal trim, and brick. Now, the ordinance calls for any facade visible from a public street or right-of-way has to minimize blank walls and to have distinct sections as the base, body, and cap, and use masonry elements and different materials like brick or siding. So the front facade is definitely in compliance, and that's how the rendering looks from the front. Also, the primary facade for commercial buildings is calling for 50% of glass, and the primary facade that will be facing the intersection of the roundabout with the roads is compliant. We don't have any comments for that. Now, the north facade will be seen from the Asheville Road. The south facade will be seen from the Radcliffe Cove Road. That's where a developer was asking for leniencies, and you do have updated elevations, and from staff analysis, we submit that they do meet the spirit of the ordinance and the general guidelines. Now, they are still asking for leniencies for the glass visible from the street on those sides. The building will be very far away, 75 to 100 something feet from this road, but it will be visible because of its height from Radcliffe Cove and Asheville Road, these two sides, north and south. So the developers did ask for leniency for south facade because it's a house of worship. And from that plan, you see right here, that's where the stage is, and that's where the people are facing. So we do understand that, but that's where one of the limits from. And they met all the other requirements. For example, you see these facades that are not the primary, but visible from the streets. They have a base made of brick, at least 3 feet high. They have a body, and they have a cap. More importantly, we have a section in the ordinance to minimize blank walls. There should be no blank wall longer than 20 linear feet for commercial buildings, and they did meet this requirement as well. And then you can see the distinct sections. Also, there's requirements in the ordinance for commercial buildings. Any secondary or exit, emergency exit doors shall be decorative in nature. They did meet that requirement. The doors have awnings, they have glass, they just have regular material. And awnings are used as architectural feature along with brick. So staff submits that we analyzed it against several sections of the ordinance that do meet the general spirit for commercial buildings that the ordinance is asking for. And this was one of the conditions of approval for a planning board as well. As for the primary facade, as mentioned, windows and doors are predominant features. At least 50% of the length of the front facade are windows or glass doors. Emergency exit doors located on the first floor level in the building facade oriented towards public street are decorative and contain glass and overhangs. So the staff submits that the comments have been addressed. For utilities, water and sewer, in your agenda, you do have an attached letter by the Public Services Director who ran the calculations and submitted the official letter as a proof that we can provide utilities to this property. As you can see, it kind of blends in. On the east side, there is an 8-inch sewer line across the creek on the adjacent property, and the project will be supplied by tap to that sewer line across the creek. The project will connect to Asheville Road by a 34-foot wide driveway with the secondary entrance of Red Cliff Cove Road via a 25-foot driveway. These connections are compliant with our land development standards, has been reviewed by Building and Fire Code. Because these are two state roads, the developer will obtain the permits, driveway permits through the NCDOT, but they still send it to us first for signatures. Second, conditional leniency, if you will, that the developer is asking is a sidewalk, and that's our next section. So generally, an 8-foot sidewalk would be required along the thoroughfare. And then on the Red Cliff Cove Road, there would be a requirement of a 5-foot sidewalk based on our street classification. The developer is showing the sidewalk on the plan. They are asking for leniency to have a fee in lieu for a sidewalk. The planning board and the staff together recommend having the sidewalks put in this place because this property is surrounded by sidewalks on all sides, literally except the north. And so there is a sidewalk goes along Asheville Road and almost curves in the Red Cliff Cove Road. However, what the planning board recommended, they instead of 8-foot sidewalk on the Asheville Road side, they suggest a 5-foot sidewalk. So the main reason is there are legacy trees that have been planted with the purpose along Asheville Road, and I do have some imagery there. And they're very thick. They're about 20-foot buffer there. And between those trees and the curb, as we measure it, it's 7.5 feet. So the trees would die. So we want to make sure we preserve them. And the 5-foot sidewalk would be appropriate because right across on Red Cliff Cove, that's the width of the sidewalk that's there anyway. So we do find the 5-foot sidewalk request to be appropriate. Next is the traffic impact analysis. One of the planning board requests is to ask developer to conduct a traffic impact analysis for the volumes during the service. And we just had exhibits by developer received today, and you do have it as a part of your agenda. They have addressed this comment, and ultimately, as you know, it's your decision to find whether it's satisfactory or not. The project by itself does not fall under our ordinance thresholds for detailed sealed engineer traffic impact analysis. The examples of the projects that would fall would be like 30,000 square foot mall or an office building, which will generate, traffic all the time. They are under that, or large subdivisions. But they did conduct the traffic analysis with the average daily units, and they provided the council with the plan. So they will work, and I will let developer comment more on that. But in general, they will work with the volunteers and the law enforcement agencies to get them on site to navigate the traffic. And they did break it down by hour on the last page, by the peak hours, how many people come in and leave in. And they did explain that the volunteers will arrive between 8 a.m. and 8:15 a.m. and stay for both services. That's the traffic for first service, for second service, and more. And then they did conduct the analysis stating that during the peak hours on Sunday for the service, there will be 7.88% increase in traffic on Red Cliff Cove and 7% increase in traffic on Sunday of Asheville Highway. So in other words, there'll be 63 more cars in the peak time of Red Cliff Cove, and there will be about 637 additional cars on Asheville Road. So that's how they address the planning board request, and that's for you to consider if that's sufficient for us. Civic space. Non-residential developments are not required to provide civic space. However, the site does propose to have a playground on the north side because they'll have student classrooms there, and it's surrounded by several fences, including chain link fence on the north side. Landscaping. The project provided landscaping plan that it's included in the agenda materials. pull the bigger version up. Okay, there. The proposed species are willow oak and inkberry holly, both native to the southeastern United States. Our ordinance encourages native plantings. The project will also preserve a considerable amount of existing vegetation on the east side of the lot and along the creek. So they do propose a lot of buffer to screen the parking lots, which exceeds our requirements, but they do preserve the majority of vegetation that's already there, especially in the floodplain areas along the creek on the east side. As mentioned before, planning board recommends keeping the legacy trees along Asheville Road as a condition, and if they would have to thin something out, they would need to replace the species there. They're also required to have a buffer because the project by zoning borders the residential areas, see on the north side and on the west side. So they would need a 20-foot buffer there anyway. So they're preserving that, and if they have to thin it out on the north side, they would just need to keep it and replace it. Parking lot screening is compliant, and then there is requirement of 1 canopy tree for 12 parking spaces. A few additional trees are needed at the front and rear of the building, and we do verify the landscaping before the final CO, but the plan shows general compliance with the ordinance. Dumpster, as shown, is screened on the south side. As for the parking itself, there is 1 auto space per 8 seats of the main assembly hall that are required. Proposed are 416 seats as shown on our plan and 249 parking spaces. This compliant. 1 bike rack per 20 spaces is required. The project calls for 12 bike spaces and 14 are provided. Compliant. Where developer is asking for a leniency is to allow the parking at the front. In this district, the parking at the front is not allowed, so but they do need to have it. They're asking for that leniency, and you have it in your agenda. The main entrance to the building is from the front, and then there's secondary entrance to the back, so they want to funnel people from both sides of the building. So for them, the front parking is important, and the planning board did not have any reservations about it or any comments. They were fine with it. The driveways, as mentioned, are compliant, 34-foot wide on Asheville side and 25-feet drive of Redcliffe Cove. The minimum distance between driveways or streets in this district is 100 feet. The development is compliant. There is no lighting or signage proposed. It's not required, but if they are to propose any lighting or signage, we would need plans and permits for that as well. The last section is environmental analysis. The applicant provided a comprehensive environmental survey, and I included some of the abstracts in your agenda. It includes current conditions of the site, grassy, wooded lot, wetland delineation study that indicated wetland plants and potentially 5 jurisdictional wetlands, and the development is not touching them, they're staying away from these areas. Soil boring, soil survey are included in the environmental survey. The floodplain boundaries are included. You have a map here for the floodplain, more visual. So these areas, again, remain undisturbed. The developer exceeds the buffer and stays out of it. There are potentially some bats and eagles that may appear on site, but the conclusion is the project will not likely to adversely affect existing vegetation that might serve as a potential habitat. No archaeological and historic resources are found on site. The project will disturb more than an acre, and they will have to seek the erosion permit through the state, and we will have a copy of that. The project will need a stormwater permit, so before the building permit, they would need to provide a detailed engineer stormwater management plan with control measures, and our contract engineers review it, and we issued the permit, and all the maintenance of stormwater measures will be recorded with the deed, and we check on that. So. And the environmental survey, it's very detailed. It's one of our newest additions to the ordinance from last year. That's why it's a lot of information here. Lastly, the consistency with the 2035 submits that this conditional district request is consistent with the 2035 comprehensive plan goal number 1 to continue to promote smart growth principles in land use planning and zoning, to encourage infill mixed use and context-sensitive development, to reinforce the unique character of Waynesville. And on the home plan map, this property is designated as mixed use community, which allows for retail, light industrial, activity centers, and so forth. Staff believes that the project is reasonable in the public interest as it creates a diverse mix of community facilities along Asheville Road. The proposed church integrates both long-term zoning vision for the area and community benefits for the residents. It also reduces impervious surface within the 100-year floodplain and increases the stream buffer along Raccoon Creek because the project stays outside of these areas. And lastly, I know it's been a lot of information. I just want to summarize the planning board 5 conditions that the council might want to consider. So the planning board recommends the following conditions. 1, comply with the facade standards and include architectural elements on the north and south side building elevations in accordance with the LDS section 510. And you have in your exhibits the newest ones for your consideration. Second condition is to conduct transportation impact analysis study, and you have it in your exhibit as well. Third condition, to preserve existing street trees along Asheville Road. Fourth condition, to require 5-foot sidewalk along Asheville Road and Red Creek Cove Road. The board does not recommend payment in lieu in this case. And fifth condition, to allow parking at the principal frontage as proposed on the master plan. For your convenience, if you would like, just after the staff report and planning board report, you do have 2 worksheets to work with, one for consistency statement and one blank one with conditions. If you would like to write your conditions down and keep track of them, that's something if you would like. This concludes the staff report. I do have developers who will be presenting as well, but I'm happy to answer any questions for.
Any board members have questions for Open?
The only question I have was, in regards, it's in the section about building design guidelines and, under LDS 5.10.4 utilities, talks about, by connecting to the sanitary sewer via an individual tap, the SOC allocations will not be affected. And my question is why? I don't understand.
We have a Jeff Steins here who issued the letter. May I defer to
Sure.
the expert? Thank you.
And the SOC allowed taps, not extensions.
So if you have a line going in front of your house and you simply apply for a tap, that's not considered part of the SOC. If you have to run 500 feet of sewer and catch 10 houses, that's an extension. That's how we've been taught to interpret the SOC.
Sewer line runs on that.
For your expertise. I thought it was no new taps, but,
No new, it's no new extension.
okay.
So in essence, most of our neighborhoods will be built in. You know,
If there was sewer there.
If
it
was
was
my
Yes.
understanding.
Yeah, if you had to build a new sewer line, then that's an extension.
Okay.
You answered most of my questions was the about traffic study, who completed the traffic study that wasn't required by the engineer. The next was preserving the existing trees, which I'm for. And then my biggest question was for safety of why we did there was 8-foot sidewalk. Explain that with the safety of this tree. So
If I would like to reinforce that issue of legacy trees also, I realize that we are asking that they provide that they retain those. And if they have to move any of that place, but I would really like to ask that that be done as an absolute last resort. If I recall correctly, and some of the old folks in this room might be able to help me, but if I recall correctly, those trees were replacements for trees that were planted to commemorate World War One or something along those lines. And so they mean something. And so I would just like to say, make that our last resort. So.
Thank you, Sean. All right, would the applicant would like to speak?
My name's Neil White. I'm the administrative pastor at Biltmore Church. Thank y'all so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. Really, a lot of the things we've shared in the neighborhood meeting with the planning board. But you guys weren't here. You didn't hear that. So, couple things real quick. I'm gonna hit some who, what, when, where, why, how. Hopefully answer some questions that you guys are going into a little bit more detail on some questions that you guys may already have or be thinking about. Who we are. Biltmore Church exists to glorify God by making disciples who reach up, reach in, reach out. That's who we are. That's what we do. We started back in 2012 with this multi-site model, taking the church to where the people are, essentially. That was with our East Asheville campus, and we've built other campuses along. And a lot of times it comes to the what and the why. Post-COVID, what we learned, what we saw was that through our online audience, there were a lot of people in Waynesville and Haywood County that were watching and engaging with us online. And so our leadership began to pray, do some research. What would that look like? How could we possibly have another campus, and that the potential of Waynesville, Haywood County? Doors began to open. This piece of property became available, and we're believing and proposing to this council, Waynesville will be the next campus location for Biltmore Church. Address 1700 Asheville Road. A lot of things, a lot of questions that we have are, how will Biltmore Church serve our community? And we believe wholeheartedly that the Lord has put Biltmore Church in a strategic location to make a difference. This difference happens in many ways. One of these ways is through these several multi-use flex spaces. One of them, which will be a first responder room, where any one of Haywood County first responders can gather for meetings, just have an area to rest and recharge during their shifts. Biltmore Church keeps that room stocked with snacks, microwave, TVs, couches, all the stuff that they would need to just kind of decompress. And really, we have one at our Arden location where officers come in to do paperwork in the middle of the night. Safe. But the byproduct of this is it'll give the neighborhood an additional first responder presence. Another way that we do that, make that difference, is through our reach teams. Our reach teams consist of different groups of people that serve different areas, whether that's kids, students, welcome, worship, production, many other ways. Another way that we'll serve Haywood and Haywood County and Waynesville is through strategic missions, not just in Waynesville and Haywood County, but also North Carolina, our nation, and around the world. I know one of the topics, another frequently asked question: what will traffic? How will this impact my commute? Our services are at 9 and 11 on Sunday mornings. We have volunteers and police officers directing traffic pre and post service. This traffic impact analysis, our executive pastor of strategic development, along with a volunteer at our church that works for North Carolina DOT, is actually the Western Deputy. I had to look to make sure I got his title right. He's actually the Western Deputy Chief Engineer. They put all this data together using information from our other campuses and estimating how many cars we look to see come on campus, leave campus on any given Sunday. And what we learned is through all that, and Olga touched on that, is roughly about a 7% increase to Asheville Road, the egress there, and then roughly close to almost 8 on Ratcliffe Cove Road, respectively. Other than that, that's the gist. I don't know the first thing about a traffic impact analysis, so I go to the guy that works for the NCDOT and let the pros do what the pros do.
You know what his name was?
His name is Mark Gibbs.
I'm the chair of the Church of Robert, Mark there. I don't know.
No, that's it. That's all I got.
Did you do a traffic study for Wednesday, or do you have any additional services during the week?
Wednesday is a lot lower, and we're not sure what Wednesday programming will look like at the present time. So we looked at the big time at the Sunday, and of course, Sunday mornings coincidentally are the lowest traffic days.
I know that you initially did not want to put sidewalks in. Could you offer me an explanation of why you didn't want to put sidewalks?
I don't know that it was didn't want to. I think it was more of it was a cost measure for us that it was going to be a huge cost to incur, and when we looked at, sometimes it is all about the bottom line. Looked at the figure.
Well, I always think of churches as being part of the community and wanting to participate, and a lot of our citizens in Waynesville walk.
Right.
So we encourage sidewalks. There is placement of the sidewalks. I'm a little concerned about the 5-foot sidewalk. But I understand the legacy trees as well. The safety measures for between 5 and I know wasn't well, 5-foot sidewalks are not as safe. I understand the need to have legs.
Is the issue with the width also on Ratcliffe Cove side?
No, on the Rapid Cove side, we would only require a 5-foot sidewalk.
It's the kind of road designated by
I see.
NCDOT.
Okay.
Major
So-
thoroughfares require.
My other concern is that is an entryway into Waynesville, and the facade issues are kind of concerning to me. I know that in other instances that we have fake facades of windows. That's something that was considered.
A fake window.
Fake windows to make it look more like a building that is not like a warehouse.
I mean, at this point, I'm up for all kinds of options, and if you knew how many times we redrew and drew these things over and over again, and I'm also, to be honest, we're going to be surrounded by trees.
The question about the traffic is that little neighborhood. That's what you say is exactly right. It's during that time, it's low traffic. Anyway, but one thing that I would be interested in knowing is, there are those peaks, and so there is going to be a lot of traffic conceivably backed up in that area. Do you guys know how long it's going to take to empty that lot once the people start leaving?
I don't know an exact time, and I would I would care to say that at our Arden campus, which is much bigger, much greater, whenever we have police officers out there directing traffic, they've got it down to a science. And I've never seen such a large lot empty as fast as it does. And this is smaller than that.
And so they're gonna be Waynesville police officers directing traffic at their,
Waynesville or Haywood, it depends on how they do those. I don't know if Haywood County has sheriff's deputies or whatever. Those are, it's again, that pros do what the pros do. Let those guys. And because of the relationship we built with them with that first responders room, it's a kind of it's a win-win. They know us, we know them.
You know, I worked at Bubba Farms, right, on the Field Harden campus. I know that you work very closely with law enforcement, but you also compensate them for that.
Yeah, it is.
John, I would just say, with the egress coming out of churches on Sunday, we've got two massive churches right here in downtown Waynesville. There's not, those people get in and out very quickly on just 2-lane roads between First Methodist and First Baptist. So that's a much more wide open area out there.
Oh, yeah.
Than what we've got
And
down here.
just what I've learned, that roundabout is a game changer.
It is. It's great. It's great.
I know that there's a lot of people that go to Lowe's well on time. They'll probably leave first and everything for them.
You good? All right. Thank you, sir.
And honestly, we can't be more excited to be here, partner with you guys any way we can.
Honestly, I can't think of a better suited place than that church being there on that piece of property, to be honest with you.
And I'll tell you this is free. One of the guy that came to the neighborhood meeting, an older gentleman, he told the story of his grandparents farmed that land, and he looked at us, tears in his eyes, and he said, "I can't wait to get to heaven and tell my grandparents that there's going to be a church there now." So we're, like I said, we can't be more excited. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll open it up to the public. There's anyone in the public would like to speak in favor of the church being on that piece of property? Okay.
I think it's a lovely piece of property.
Could you come up to the
Oh,
scene
I'm sorry.
and give your name and address to Mr. We all have rules. I'm sorry.
I'm delighted that they're coming. It's a beautiful piece of property. Pardon me, Jeanette Price, 96 Rolling Drive, Waynesville, North Carolina. I think it is suited absolutely for a church. And the more churches, the better.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Anyone like to oppose? Okay. I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
so move.
A motion by John,
Second.
second by Julie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so like sign. Okay, folks, you have, let me make sure on this. We got two motions correctly.
Yeah.
You have two motions here.
Yeah, I was gonna talk for just a second, that I still have a strong belief in the facade, and I agree with the planning board. I know that they've submitted additional facade modifications, but I'd like to see that a little bit better than what they submitted. Okay. And I'm glad that they did the transportation study, and I also think that we do need to preserve those existing trees, so I'd like to put that as a condition as well, and that they have a flag for the sidewalk. And I think it's okay that we allow the parking and the principal frontage to the church, and surrounded by trees.
You get his motion, ED?
I haven't made a motion yet. I'll have to make one. I was just getting consensus of the board before. Okay.
Well, and I'll just say that board, the condition can be required, a certain percentage of broken frontage be modified or in a specific, I'm trying to write the exact language, but either with alternate materials to interest. Vegetation screen, you can list that as dimension in your motion.
Okay,
I'm gonna rely on that.
So if you would like to, make a motion on the site plan, just on the site plan, with conditions of the new rate of just said, that would be okay. That would be your first motion. Second motion, comprehensive.
got that, my friend?
Yeah,
Yeah, we have two motions on.
yes, yes. For architectural.
So, just for clarification, particularly that south side facade that we found lacking.
Right.
And they have revised that facade with, some coverings that came up over, segmented that building. You would like to see the addition.
I could still show it.
We actually did initially find two south and north side facades. So, let's see. Yeah, so this is the north facade visible at an angle from Asheville Road, and this is the south facade visible at an angle from Redwood Road.
And you're saying those brick columns, they're satisfied the,
Closely, they meet the general spirit of the ordinance. They broke the walls no more than 20 feet. They did masonry, they did base, body, and cap. These are the major takeaways of commercial building. But church is commercial because we don't have a church. So generally, we would require for commercial buildings to be any facade visible from the public street to be 50% glass or doors. But we understand that the house of worship there. So.
I just, I appreciate Anthony's interest, but I'm personally okay with that. On the south side, not visible from Asheville Highway, right?
There will be trees in a parking lot of this. Up above the top, the planning board was particularly concerned about blank space above.
So that,
that's the metal panel type thing.
Correct.
Yes.
So staff feels like they met the spirit of the ordinance by adding these elements in. But if you'd like them to do something additional, work with them. We want to be sensitive. They may be going for a particular design, that they're trying to keep their costs down, this church. So far, they've worked very diligently with us to try and.
And let me, if you may, I know there is some utilities or ductwork. Roger, do you want to comment on that? What's going to be on that facade? If that's okay.
Yeah,
No, oh, okay.
Yes, I'd make a motion on the public hearing. Okay. We need a motion to open public hearing again. So I'm making a motion that we open public hearing again.
second.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed?
Hey all, I'm Roger Wright. RL Wright Construction will be the contractor out here. On our south elevation, the big blank wall, we'll have two package units and we're gonna have to run the outside ductwork up. It's gonna be about a third span of the gable, for our two ductworks to feed the heat and air into that sanctuary. So that's something that will also help break up that wall. It'll be addressed. It's kind of one of those, we have to address it as it comes to us, are we gonna paint gonna cover it up, or we're gonna have to do a big brick chase around it. So we're gonna have some more things that are gonna help break that, that south side up. And just those things you can't really draw in until you see what the mechanical engineer puts.
My biggest concern is one thing that's a very heavily used entrance. But I feel more comfortable knowing that they additional changes.
May I ask, Mike, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Roger, was there any additional thought to maybe doing something up here?
We haven't looked at that. I mean, that's something.
I think the planning board was not as concerned about this side as that side with, but with the architectural characteristics. But, this is greatly improved.
You guys have more questions for contract?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion for this public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So I make conditions, I'll make conditions on the second. Is that right?
No, so the first vote would be to, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that, yeah, the first vote would be to find the amendments consistent. Or not.
I'm gonna make a motion, that I find that, I'll make a motion to find the conditional district map amendment as proposed as being consistent with the 2035 land plan and reasonable in the public interest, and that it continues to promote smart growth principles in land planning and zoning, encourages infill, mixed use and content development, and reinforce the unique character of Wayne.
That was second.
Second.
Second to Judy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have a second motion there.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve with conditions, conditional map, and that they continue to comply with facade standards and architectural elements on the north and south side, and work with the planning board, that they preserve the existing trees along Asheville Road, and if there's any need to make modifications to that, then it has to come before the board and for approval. You got it? Sure. Okay. And that that they are required to put a 5-foot sidewalk walk along Asheville Road and Radcliffe Road. Oh, yes. ED. And also that they are allowed to put parking as the principal from proposed on
Okay. Second.
Second.
Second. John, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So like sign. Okay, we got another public hearing. It's also to consider a request for contiguous annexation for 7.9 acre unaddressed parcel.
Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much.
you're good.
Now we're going to annex you into the town.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go.
You might want to wait and see if you get annexed. That's the biggie. All right, up to request an address parcel between Asheville Road and Ratliff Cove Road, pin 8626-00-1383.
To save time before you open the public hearing, just want to let the board know you can make a motion to adopt all of the evidence that was given in the previous public hearing and this one. So that way, all the highlights will.
I will make a motion that we.
Well, after you open the public
Okay,
hearing.
perfect.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Okay, then second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to accept all the evidence as presented in the previous hearing, this hearing.
okay. Second,
Second.
John, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So like sign. All right, now we'll go to the public hearing.
Although Grumman Land Use Administrator, this is a petition for a contiguous annexation for proposed church campus site on 7.9 acre unaddressed parcel of Radcliffe Cove Road. PIN 862600138. The property is zoned Raccoon Creek Neighborhood Center. Annexing this property would allow it to tap to our 8-inch sewer line that runs on adjacent property to the east, across the creek. And motion for consideration is adoption of the attached ordinance to approve the annexation of the described property. In your exhibits, you do have the latest survey, the exhibit A from the deed. And on the staff level, we did advertise this hearing in the Mountaineer newspaper and by posting the property in 3 places.
Any questions for Obie?
That's fine.
Okay, I will need a motion to adopt attached ordinance to approve the annexation of the described property. Oh, no, I gotta close, I'm sorry. Wait,
I'll
you
make a
get
motion
that?
to close public
God, I'm
hearing.
trying to get you out of here.
Yeah. I'll make a
Okay.
motion to close public hearing.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to adopt the,
okay. Got a
I'll make
motion?
a motion to, approve the annexation of 7.9 acre unaddressed parcel between Asheville Road and Radcliffe Road, PIN number 866-00138.
Need a second?
Second.
Second for Julia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show like sign. Welcome to Waynesville.
Do I have to make another motion? So,
Nope, we're good.
the ordinance approve the annexation.
We're good, right?
How did the motion read? Sorry,
I
Didn't
just
pay
made
too
a
close.
motion to us to annex.
We did that.
Yes.
We just did the annexation.
Well, you can make a short motion to adopt the ordinance of annexation.
We're trying to cross all our, all the lines for you guys. I'll make a motion to adopt the attached ordinance to approve the annexation of described property. We're trying to cross all the lines.
Second.
Second by Julia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, welcome to Waynesville.
Thank you so much.
You're mighty welcome. If we could help in any way, please let us know.
I didn't pay attention to the exact way you phrased
I
that.
know.
I know. You're gonna have to throw us under the bus, but yeah. Okay, next up, we have a cemetery master plan. Julie Graston, would you like to, come up and, speak to the board? I'd like to recognize you got one of your board members, Edwin Fish.
Chairman
Chair.
Fish is here with me.
Is he a thorn?
Not today.
Yeah. All right.
All right, for the past several years, the cemetery committee has requested that a master plan be performed for Green Hill Cemetery. It's got cut a couple of times, and this year it was funded as part of the budget. So an RFQ was sent out in November to seven different firms, posted on the town's website. We posted it through Hub and the state IPS site. I spoke to several different firms. However, only 2 proposals were received. At the January 25th Cemetery Committee meeting, the committee selected the firm W.C. Fry to perform the master plan. W.C. Fry has partnered with 3 additional firms to perform the master plan. W.C. Fry will lead the project and will incorporate the work of L.F. Sloan, who will look at the underdeveloped sections of the cemetery, determine the best use for burial needs based upon recent trends. As a nation, we're leaning more towards cremations due to rising funeral costs. And so that was one of the things that the committee was concerned about and staff was concerned. We wanted to make sure that we're following trends and looking at that. The firm Richard Grubb will concentrate on the historic areas, and provide recommendations for conservation of those areas. Withers Rabnell, which is out of Asheville, will provide civil engineering, consulting, and mapping. The work will be performed in 5 different phases. There will be several virtual meetings, and they will be on site for 2 days, meeting with town staff. There will also would like to incorporate a meeting with the cemetery committee if during that 2 days. It will take approximately 5 months to complete this master plan, and at that time, I'll come back to the council for approval of this plan. And I attached their proposal to the board item, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that I can.
I thought everything was great. The only thing I didn't see, it's entirely possible that I just missed it, but is where does the public have?
So that is going to be would be in a totally separate section of, this first part is just going to be coming up with what the staff is looking for, what the cemetery committee is looking for. That would have to be funded. We really can't afford much more than what they're proposing right now. But there could be an additional phase to that to get the public input.
We have any idea how much that costs?
No. If you looked on there, one of let's see. Yes, it is. Public workshop would be $4,900. That's on page 15 of their proposal. And we opted for the basic plan just so that we could get that. But I'll be glad to, if y'all want to give me more money, Misty's back here in the back.
$5,000. Surely we can find $5,000.
For sure, yeah.
I'd love to see that. The other thing I love, and this was definitely a Cadillac, was the Green Hill Cemetery inventory.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that would be just
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. And maybe we can look at funding that. I will say that I was somewhat confused in that it says the fee assumes that 80% of the field work will be carried out by unpaid volunteers. And then they were going to charge us $90,000. So
that's where your cemetery committee comes in.
Well, if you need volunteers, I'm sign me up, but
There's 30,000 right now.
yeah.
Well, so for the most part, the newer sections, Shook A, Shook B, and John Taylor, we do have that mapped. It's that older section up top and what we refer to as the roundabout, which goes around, that is the part that we do not have inventoried.
And that would cost $90,000.
According to what they're, I don't know if there would ever be an intern, a student from Western or something that would like to spend their summer in the cemetery.
Masters in college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would be nice to do. So I
Right.
understand that $90,000 is huge.
It's a lot.
I would love to see us add the public cemetery workshop. Wait,
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that is specific to
To the
cleaning and
historic.
repairing the
Mhm.
preservation of
So-
grave markers.
Yeah, so I would have to get her to, I would think, surely another workshop wouldn't cost But I can,
Okay.
I've heard price that and I could come back to you for
Yeah.
that, or you want the
you know,
public's input on,
essentially, we have, when we were doing the land use plan, we had these
Mhm.
workshops and people could come and see what the
Right.
possibilities are, and I'd love to see us do something similar.
okay, all right. At what point do you want the public, do you want them involved like after we get it?
Totally,
So far?
defer to their.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions for you?
Edwin, what do you think?
I like
I do too.
Mhm.
All right, well, we need a motion to approve or disapprove.
I'll make a motion to approve, the award of the development of Greenfield Cemetery Master Plan in the amount of $42,400.
With the expectation that.
Of additional, could we put a caveat on that, what we would want approved additional?
No, you don't need
Don't need
to, you just make this motion and then ask staff to bring back a proposal.
Yep.
for some public discussion.
Okay. I got a motion.
Second.
Second by Julia. All in favor, say aye.
Uh,
Opposed? Before you get away, I have a question that this happened to my family. That my sister blistered this guy over, is that we never knew that the grave diggers come in there and move a monument without letting that person that owns that monument know. And then they go back and they put it back. And that monument's been sealed for 25 years and they never get it back in the correct spot where it was at. It was like crooked. It wasn't even set back in the correct spot like it should have been. Are there a way that we can have our superintendent of our cemetery up there have that grave digger know when he's gonna have to do that, let him know? So if he does do that, make sure that superintendent sees him put it back in the right spot it's supposed to be.
I will say that a lot of times when, the graves are dug, they are dug of the evenings. We are not always on site.
Yeah.
When, the graves are dug, but I mean, we encourage family members anytime something like that happens to let us know and we'll work with, whoever, if it's Wales, ultimately it falls back on the funeral home because
That's what.
they contract to have the graves dug. We're not involved in that. So it would ultimately fall back on the funeral home. And, if you wanted to make a claim against their insurance, because the grave digger has to have insurance to work, on our property too.
I just think that most of the time the public don't know that that's.
Yeah,
happening.
it does happen.
They really don't know, and I never knew it. And, my stone that we have for my daughter and my family, they've been there for years and years, and I never knew that happened.
Yeah.
Until that happened, and it was terrible. They piled mud up all over the sides.
Yeah.
Of it. I mean, it was terrible. My
We-
sister, she handled that. I
Right,
stayed out of it. My little
right.
sister.
But
She's a
yeah,
lot
I mean,
better than I.
have they fixed it back the way it's supposed to
Yeah,
be?
they finally,
Okay.
got it back into position, but I just think that if there's some way that they were going to do that, even though if it was the superintendent went back the next day, just to look and see if they did get it back in a correct spot and it's not twisted around. And plus, if they don't seal it, then you have all that water.
All the
back
water,
under it.
yeah.
And you see, they didn't even seal ours until my sister, made.
Yeah, he should have came
Well,
back and done
so
that.
It's a problem.
Yeah,
It's a problem. So could you look into a way of solving that?
I will do my best, but like I said, it's the funeral homes that are contracting that, and we really, I don't know what legal way, we would have to make a contractor fix that other than going through the funeral home who
Yeah.
actually contracted
Well,
with.
he was very nice about it, Wells, funeral
Mhm.
home, about having the guy go back, so
Yeah.
you guys would only have to call the funeral home
From,
and say, hey.
yeah,
your-
and say,
your guy
hey,
didn't-
and we've had to do that. I mean, we've had to call Wilbert and say, you've done this or whatever. And typically, they will come and fix whatever's wrong.
If you would,
Okay,
see what you.
we'll
can
see
do.
what we can do.
I would appreciate that for other families
Okay.
that it could occur to, rather than, I just, when it happened to my family, that's when I actually got it from my little sister. You know how mean she is.
No comment.
No comment there. Just as I said, but he'll tell you how mean she is. Thank you, Julie. All right, we'll move on. Approval of required CDBG regulatory compliance documents for South Waynesville Water and Sewer Improvements Extension Project. Rob Heights.
I know y'all have been waiting for this.
Yeah.
Let me just start out by saying the CDBG program was set up as a housing and community rehabilitation program. And they have been doing this program since I started in the business in the early 1970s. Since it's based on community and housing rehabilitation, they've developed an entire group of resolutions and policies that are really related to housing. And we have gotten about $3,800,000 worth of CDBG grants for the rehabilitation and installation of water and sewer. However, CDBG being a federal program, we must adopt all of the policies and procedures that CDBG requires, even if they're directed at housing rehabilitation. So the numerous documents that I'm going to go over in the next few minutes make complete sense if you have a neighborhood of 30 houses. You're going to completely weatherize them and renovate them, bring them up to standards, put in new sidewalks, completely doing a neighborhood. Doesn't make any sense if you're just going to bury a sewer line. So close your eyes and think about these programs as if we were going to rehabilitate 30 houses. They'll make sense then. Please don't imagine having a citizens committee staring over a hole that you're going to put an 8-inch pipe in. So I have to go through these for the record. What we can do at the end is make one motion, should you choose to authorize the mayor to sign all these documents. I'm going to try to go through them briefly. If anybody wants to stop and go into great detail about Section 504 or any of the sections, I'm just delighted to do that. So let me get started. Elizabeth, this reminds me of speaking the Great Litany. It's the longest prayer in the Episcopal prayer book. It takes about 20 minutes to read. Okay, and I'm sorry Dick Young is gone because I know he will have enjoyed this presentation.
I would just like to clarify, are you praying or not?
Because we got $3,800,000 to remove I. This is an answer to a prayer, yes.
Okay.
So I'm doing this. That's right. For any bureaucrat, this is any bureaucrat's answer to a prayer is more bureaucracy. Okay, let's start out with Section 504, Compliance Officer Grievance Procedure. Section 504 is the section involving disabled citizens. If a disabled citizen in the target area has an issue, he may make a grievance to Elizabeth Teague, who is our designated grievance officer for this section. She and I are going to split all these. So this one, Elizabeth, if they will come to Elizabeth and complain about their grievance, she will hold a grievance hearing within 5 calendar days, give them her assessment of the grievance and try to resolve it. If she cannot resolve it, then they may carry that grievance on to DEQ in Raleigh. So the second policy is the residential anti-displacement and relocation assistance plan. This is a very commonly used federal program in the United States. We haven't used it here. I've used a considerable amount of time. So if you have a home that's completely dilapidated and you have to tear it down, this program requires that you're required to find that person a like home and preferably in the same school district within the same shopping area and offer that person a market price for that home based roughly on the market value of the house you just put in. So in my experience, I've sometimes had to tear 17 houses down to build a runway and move entire mobile homes. Having to move every one of them, we have to do two property evaluations and then give them a profit. Then pay for their moving, pay for their setup at a new place, even pay for the the deposits on their utilities. That's what the anti-displacement and relocation plan is. And that applies to any federal program, by the way, not just CDBG. Citizen participation. This is usually a pretty important thing when you're dealing with the neighborhood. A lot of people have never dealt with the federal government at all. They don't know what their rights are. You need to get them together and talk to them about what programs are available, how we're going to go about rehabilitating their houses. In this case, I guess we'll just set up 2 or 3, tables for 8 and sit over the sewer line and explain to them how we're going to dig the hole and put the line in. But we do have to have public hearing to explain to the neighborhood what we're doing. We have held one. We held a public hearing as part of the application process. We hold 2 other public hearings, one in the middle of the project and then one at closeout.
And Elizabeth is again the designated
Yes.
citizen participation.
She's a designated survivor. Yep. Really care, for our first grant, Karen Keane will be our administrator and she and Elizabeth will jointly carry through this. We already have the names of the folks that make up our citizen participation group. Code of conduct. This isn't very difficult in North Carolina since all elected and appointed officials have to subscribe to North Carolina's Code of Ethics. It basically says if you're involved in the CDBG program as a policymaker, you can't profit personally from it. Then we have an EEO plan, which prohibits any retaliation or any action against low to moderate income people, veterans of several different wars, and we have to develop self-evaluation mechanisms to determine if we have had any problems with EEO. Prohibition against the use of excessive force by the police department. And this, one of these particulars says that the police department shall not physically bar entrances or exits to facilities that are subject to nonviolent demonstrations. Secondly, the town that excessive force by local police agencies shall not be used against individuals engaged in lawful and nonviolent civil rights demonstrations within the town's boundary. So Thirdly, it is the policy of the town to enforce applicable federal, state, and local laws against physical barring of an entrance or an exit from a facility or location which is the subject of nonviolent civil rights demonstration. The town council will coordinate with local law enforcement agencies to implement this resolution. This is certainly in line with our use of force that we have in our standard operating procedures in the police department. Language access. Karen, Elizabeth, and I will have to actually work with census documents to prove and write a report to show HUD and the state the number of people that speak other languages. If we fall below 5%, we do not have to provide a language access plan. It is assumed that we have to provide Spanish. There is at least one CDBG community that I went to school with in Raleigh that had a significant number of Hmong folks in the target area. So not only were they having to prepare their documents in Spanish, they were having to translate them into Hmong. So there are target areas where there are more than two languages. But we have to do the statistical work to show how many different languages we may have to provide language access to. Again, just what little I know about Waynesville, I think that Spanish will be the only
Is
section.
that just for the target area, or is that as a whole?
I believe it's for the target area. Now the research is for the whole town.
Okay.
But in terms of providing documents, I think it's for the target. Doesn't really matter if you got to translate it into Hmong. Anybody who wants to come get it.
Right.
You'll notice in all of our advertisements that we're paying for, there's a paragraph at the very bottom that written in Spanish that says this document's available in Spanish if you come up to City Hall and see Candace. This also applies to folks that may have a hearing issue, that we provide interpretive services. And I don't know about this town, but there have been many occasions when I've had to hire an interpreter when we've had a public hearing that involved someone that has a hearing disability. That's required under the law.
Got your signing hand ready, Mayor?
There's
There's a lot of
I can
stuff
finger
to sign.
I can finger spell, but I can't do American Sign. A procurement policy for CDBG grantees. The states were advised by the Housing and Urban Development to develop their own procedure policy. North Carolina has one of the best procurement policies in the nation. We've never really had any problem joining them with federal procurement law. So this resolution basically states that you've developed a plan, it's ethical, and that you intend to use your procurement plan as you buy and purchase products for the project. There's an EEO resolution which states that if any person feels like they've been discriminated against in housing, they may come to see me and I will try to deal with their housing discrimination complaint. If they do not believe I've been able to adequately handle it, they may appeal to the Department of Diener. I have no idea what Diener is going to do with it, but they're the next group that's supposed to deal with it. And this resolution goes through how I will offer assistance. How we publish in the newspaper the issues involving with discrimination. Section 504, which has to do with dealing with folks with disabilities and how to deal with complaints related to people that are complaining about being discriminated against because of their disability. It can be, it'll be filed with me, and I'll do an investigation, give a written determination, and the complainant may request reconsideration and have another hearing in front of me, and then finally, so that if the citizen's dissatisfied, they'll appeal to the Department of Environmental Quality. And if we are to overtly offer employment to low to moderate income folks that live in the target area, this certainly, you can see how this would work better in larger cities where you have a large number of houses and there may be unemployed folks. But we have to make an overt gesture to let people in our area know that if their job they're qualified for among the contractors, we'll help them apply for those jobs, make a meaningful effort to have them employed. We also have the obligation to train them so that they can work alongside the contractor at the job. And that's what attachment A, section 3 of the next section says. Those are the policies that your federal government asks you to consider and to adopt if you're interested in accepting the grant. I'm hoping that in our action tonight will be considered acceptable, so that for the next grant, which we do not have don't have a contract for that yet, but we Elizabeth and I have had a Zoom conference with Colleen Simmons at the state, asking that as much of the bureaucracy as we've done on the first grant carry over to the second grant, because the sewer and the water lines are literally being built in the same neighborhood. So if they say you've got to do it over again, I'll probably be doing it again for you. What questions can I help you with?
Anyone have questions for Ron?
When do we start
When do we start with what?
digging?
Digging. Oh, that's what we have. We've identified our engineer for phase 1. He's in the design process right now, and that involves surveying, design. Once he finishes that, he'll develop bid documents. My sense is you might see some digging going on in July. Once they're there, I don't think they'll be working more than 2 weeks. It's only about 2,000 feet of water and sewer. This particular grant, the new grant that we'll be bringing you very shortly, provides sanitary sewer for 42 people that don't have it right now. We'll be vastly upgrading an area off Sawyer Street at the mobile home park. Did I get everything? An A on the Great Litany.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to execute required compliance documents for the South Waynesville Sewer Improvement and Extension projects.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Second by Julia. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The last one.
Thank you.
Okay, you're still up. amend fee schedule for.
That's right.
Budget ordinance to include a $25
That's right.
pole attachment rate.
That's right. As you know, I've been working with the company to negotiate a pole attachment agreement to put in a micro transmission system that's solely owned by this company. They will rent out their space to companies like Verizon and T-Mobile and YouTube and other many different groups. What this micro transmission equipment does is it beams down 5G into the valleys and to the neighborhoods that aren't getting good reception right. Misty called me one day and she said, you know, we only charge $8 a pole. And last time I remember charging $8 a pole was 1998. We also realized that there was not a pole attached in your user fee. When UTEC did their work in the 2015-16 area, they recommended a pole attachment fee that probably fell off, if you will, as we moved from Marcy to Mike. It just didn't get presented to the board, though it should have. So what Misty and I would like you to do is to adopt tonight a $25 pole attachment fee, which is in line with the 10-year pole attachment recommendations that UTEC did. This would have been the fee for 2024, and we have it on the record because when this new company comes before you, and they will be coming in the next 3 to 4 meetings, we'll want that fee there so that we can charge them a pole attachment fee. Another issue that Misty and I are working on is we're getting quotes because we haven't actually counted the number of attachments we have. We don't know how many of our pole spectrums on or AT&T on. Are there some companies we've never heard of that snuck into town and put fiber optic? We were shocked in the States, but when we did this and found out there's people that slipped in and put small systems in, they were security companies. You know, they just slipped security for different people's houses and things on our poles. So I think we'll have a company come in and actually count the number of different people that are on our poles. So what happens if let's say you're AT&T? We are attached to them, so we'll count them too. So we'll take, let's say, 400 poles we're attached to AT&T and subtract it from the 1,500 poles that AT&T is attached to for us. We'll subtract it and charge them the difference at $25 per pole. So come January 1st, Misty will have a new rate, charge all of our pole attachments, and we'll have a pole attachment study that would be binding on the folks when we go. So that's what this fee is.
Okay. All right, questions for Rob? Need another motion, correct?
Go for it. Go for it, please.
You're probably exhausted answering all the motions. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the fee schedule of the 2023-24 budget to include a $25 pole attachment fee.
Okay, got a motion? Second to John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you can come get you a drink of water now.
Thank you.
Mayor, could I take a 5 minute before we do this next one? Would you entertain a 5 minute break before we do this?
We'll take a 5 minute break here in between all this public hearings, and we'll resume back in 5 minutes. I'm sure you.
Shoot, I'm ready to go home.
I'm wearing there.
Yeah, I've been through.
Feel for you.
I did. I needed to go,
You know
through,
it's going.
going through all that CDBG stuff. I took one of my migraine tablets because halfway through it, I knew I was gonna get a migraine. Yeah. Well, it's the great one. I think the greatest example of government strength I can show you. It's just what it takes just to get a little bitty sewer grant.
Yeah.
The only thing we didn't have to do is stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag. I do okay. I get all the stuff you wanted done.
She'll let you know in your staff meeting.
No, she'll let me know like 8 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning. You forgot this or you forgot that. Yeah. She's punctual. I know you want to interview me and more about each and every one of those, right?
I have some questions.
I think Elizabeth can help.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I said, questions from the record.
Oh,
It's Jean McClure. She's retiring, correct?
Oh, is she the,
The bookkeeper. She's a
Yes.
bookkeeper.
yes, Amanda taking over and she can work with Jean. I don't really go into the office much.
Yeah.
Except for when I go.
So she's right now trying to train her.
Yeah.
are they, gonna do a little thing for her?
I think so. I'll find out.
You would, should have.
Yeah.
We've worked with her a lot.
Yeah.
Before,
Yes.
all the public notices, I guess
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
retiring.
She's probably 50 years. Probably.
I think someone said 47,
Yeah. Yeah. I was there 20 when she came when I first was there. You're a good lady. She will be missed. Are you ready to resume?
Yes, sir.
All right, we will resume our meeting. And let me see where that, she already on the page. Report on the settlement with Autobell Airwood Incorporated and Autobell Works LLC and budget amendment, Mark.
Based on the instructions from the board, I received the section, went back to Council for Audubon, and were able to reach an agreement in terms of the board. We negotiated a release agreement, so that was, I will refrain from saying much more than that unless the board instructs me to.
Totally understood.
Mm-hmm. So the only, the language in the settlement agreement was reviewed and revised extensively by myself. It's been vetted by finance department. So it's ready for you unless you have questions. It's better to language.
I don't have any concerns about the language. I will say that I read the whole thing, and that may have been a first for that type of document. And so I do have some comments, and I want these in the record. Some in this community are going to see this and think the town did something wrong. And the reality is we did everything right. Our ordinances were right. Development services application of these ordinances was right. the town attorney's actions on behalf of the town were right. We did everything right, yet we find ourselves on the losing side of what is, in my admittedly non-legally trained mind, my not admittedly non-legally trained opinion, on the losing side of what is a completely misguided judgment. That insult to that injury, the citizens of Waynesville now have to pay $60,000, which is almost 0.4 cents on the tax rate. So I'll vote for this, but not because it's in any way right, because I don't see as we have a choice.
If you have anything? Yes, sir. Julie, you have anything to add to that?
That was well said. So
Definitely understood where the John's coming from. But in this matter, we don't have a choice because of our judge.
Yep.
Judge Letts.
Begrudgingly, I'll make a motion to approve the settlement with Auto Bell Arrowwood Inc. and Auto Bell Car Wash LLC, and to authorize the mayor to sign the release and settlement agreement.
Second.
A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we still have.
I'll make a
another
motion
budget
to
amendment.
approve the budget amendment as presented, Mayor.
Begrudgingly second.
Okay. Do your second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show a light sign. Okay, thank you, Ms. Town Attorney, for all your hard work in that.
I appreciate that very much, Mayor, and I wish we were approving a motion on a different, with a different direction, but we are
For sure.
where the court puts us.
Yes, we all did our job here at the town.
I want to
So,
go on record as
I
well
will say
saying,
that, yeah, but,
Mayor, I want to go on record as well saying Martha did a fantastic job. And I want to go on record and say that Martha did a fantastic job, and we appreciate all your hard work you put in.
Well, thank you, and I want to recognize Elizabeth Teague, obviously, and her department did a great deal of work before it got to be in the courts, and, you know, it was a team effort. That's one of the best things. We're always collaborating. I just appreciate the opportunity to serve.
okay. We will move on to communication from staff. Julia, ladies first. Everything? John?
I have one little tiny thing to say. Tomorrow is Julia's birthday, and I want to say happy birthday. And she went first, so she can't say it back.
And your birthday, correct?
My birthday is tomorrow as well. Yes. But happy birthday, Julia.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, twin.
Yes, we're birthday twins.
Okay, I know something about, you were looking into about, the survey of public works.
No, the employees are,
Employee survey of public works. You give them a heads up.
the
You and I-
employees are,
you and I talked about it.
Paige was out yesterday and today, so we don't have her on the agenda. She went to went and asked the School of Government to provide a proposal, and that proposal is $10,000 to conduct a very comprehensive, long-term, objective, anonymous survey of all the employees,
Yeah.
not just public works.
and that's would perhaps be funded in this next budget, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And it would be split among all the funds.
Okay.
That's actually not a bad price.
Okay,
No,
so we need a motion in that order?
It'll come up in the budget.
Oh, come on, budget. Okay. All right. Oh, I know what we're talking. Did you get with Luke back there on that, grant?
Yes, he's talking about the foundation, the health foundation grant to get cardio equipment.
Yes, Karen and I met with, Andy Well, and we're gonna, very broad and open, not a whole lot to it, so, gonna ask $20,000.
Yeah.
On that grant, and even if we just do 2 pieces of equipment, two, very first copies. We're gonna try to get that.
Would that include, new elliptical machines?
The 2 pieces that we're looking at that are most versatile, and, one is stairmaster. That's one, very specific to that stairmaster, comes with ceiling height. The other one is a new piece of equipment on the market that with a lot of people called, chisel challenge. Please look that up. It
Chisel
has
challenge.
8 different adjustments, workout. We will, it will be very 6,000. 4,000, but if you were at 20,000, then we have to do that, you partially get funded. For that work, so we work with that. We'll see what 20,000 is. Brand help hospital
Not like me.
I am one of those. I don't know if I technically qualify as seniors, although I continue to get AARP membership info. So, and just one more time for the cheap sheets, our rec center is the bomb.
It is.
It is. There ain't nothing but good stuff coming out of that. So,
And to bring you up to par, what it is, I seen this article in the newspaper that Haywood Health Foundation is asking folks that who wants to apply for a grant. It was the same board you were on.
I was the chair of that organization for many years, so I will
Yeah.
help write the
twist some
grant.
arms.
And I am still on.
And
Yeah.
Julia's still on
Definitely twist some arms.
And so it said equipment, there was equipment in there.
Mhm.
So I showed it to Rob and Rob has been working. like
I
I say,
called the grants lady,
The grant lady.
Martha, and she was very encouraging,
March.
and I,
I
Marcia,
was like, what did I say?
Marcia, I'm sorry, and Luke made the mistake of coming in the office just about the time I needed to talk to him, so we shared the office, and he's taken off with it, just like he always does.
Yeah, we met the next day with Karen on the phone. So open-ended, large style stuff, application.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Anthony
I'll
and
help.
I will put in our 2 cents.
I'll give you some feedback with that. And I am a proud member of the AARP, and Julie has a couple of years before she qualifies.
I got you, big buddy.
I think I've got you all.
Rob and I have been in it quite a while.
Yes.
But, okay, that's good news then. Okay, that concludes the communication from staff. And Martha, I skipped you, other than you gave your report on
I
that.
believe I've said.
Is that okay? You have anything else other than?
I'm leaving the country tomorrow, so I will not
Oh,
talk
are
to
you?
any of you until 26th.
Okay.
This month.
Okay, you have fun.
I intend to.
You have fun. You definitely deserve it.
It's been a long time since I had a break.
You definitely deserve it. Then I'll ask for a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
A motion with John,
Second.
second by Julia is mad. You're going to have to deal with her after the meeting.
That's right.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, show like sign.
Oh, I changed my registration. I'm not gonna.
Exactly.
Again.
You ain't gonna ever speak to him again.
No, I'm not gonna adjourn it.